Wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Hey, today I am starting to do the layout work on the phaser strip effect from Ralph at Tenna Controls. And what I've got here is that the arc of the, not the Covenant, but the arc of the phaser strip that I have transferred from the inside of the phaser strip of the Galaxy Class Enterprise saucer. There's an area that I've channeled out to follow the arc of the big phaser strip. It goes like this, and my firing range is going to be from here to here, and in that range there are going to be 25 LEDs, and it's a neat effect once we get it in place. But what I'm trying to do now is I've got, since there's an odd number, there's obviously going to be 1 in the center and then 12 on either side of it. So I've got them marked out, getting slightly closer together as we get to the front and a little bit more spread out as we get to the sides. I've got this pattern that I really like, so it's on tracing paper. I line it up against the center line here and the edge here, and then I copy those dimensions out onto this, and then I will know the placement for all of my LEDs. I will pull the wires down. Looking at Ralph's instructions, the LEDs, they will either go to connectors on the boards or they go to wires that are lettered A, B, C, D, and E. So what I've got to do is I've got these kind of laid out. So if I put an LED here, then I know that the positive lead goes to A. I can kind of bring it down to this area and tape it. That'll help keep everything straight as I'm going. Then once everything is done, I take this piece, I take the tape off of here, I take this piece of plastic and I attach it up into the inside of the saucer, and with the LEDs facing up, and that means they should go into the divot that I have carved into the underside of the saucer where the phaser strip is, and Bob's your uncle, we've got a phaser strip. So if I can keep my sanity and keep the diagram straight, everything should go pretty well. Ralph has got this very well thought out and very well drawn up, so even a dummy like me can follow it. Okay, I've got the first half, well, more than the first half. Here's the first 12, and then the 13th lucky LED, which will be the center phaser LED. And you can see all of this wire coming out off of it. Now I have to cut all of the resistors off of this because the resistors are taken care of by the board itself. Well, plus this all has to be shortened and neatened down, but I really won't know that until I start ganging up the wires as to how much I can cut off of each one. So I'm just laying them all in place now, and then I'll put a piece of tape over the bottoms here to kind of keep the tension off of those wires while I do the rest of the work. But let's do the second half now. Okay, here are all 25 LEDs strapped down and held in submission on the phaser strip. Now it's just a question of taking the positives and negatives from this, using the notes from that, and hopefully making something intelligent out of them. Look at this mess. Look at it. Take it in. Soak in the mess. I'm trying to make a wiring circuit here. Trying to make all of the Ralph's instructions are very clear to follow, so I've got no beef with those. Anything that gets screwed up is 100% on me. But I've got the circuits laid out, and I labeled them as I did them. Should be a matter of taking the A that's on here, matching it to the A that's in here, and then plugging it into the board and seeing if it works. And then taking these other colored strands, following his chart to see, like example, the red off connector 3 goes to this junction, which is one of these unmarked junctions, but I can figure it out. So I'm stalling now because all I need to do is actually just sit down and do it. Cut some little bits of electrical tape and get to it. Okay, what we've got is 1, 2, and 3. I was hoping for a much wider spread. Like this one would be firing over here, and this one would be firing over here. But I don't think it's as simple as picking up the LED from the hot glue and putting it in a different position, because I think it's all dependent on these other ones. So I need to consult with Ralph, I think. Okay, I've just managed to tie in the photon torpedo. Let's see if I can get that working here. Beautiful. And yes, they will both fire at the same time if you really have to attack absolutely everything all at the same time. And you've got the strobes going on down here, so the brain is starting to come to life on this. Well, good morning and welcome back. It is Tuesday and I need to get back on the Galaxy class train today. And before I clean this board up that I have the phaser strip on, the circuit on, this guy right here, I need to put this aside and start working on other parts of the ship today. But I thought what I would do is to show it kind of in place. Now, when everything is said and done, this will be taped up to the inside of the hull. I mean, I've got this little groove channeled out here. Then I'll be upending that circuit board and really pushing it up into it. So what you're going to see here is not as close as it will be to the actual screen. But let's check it out. I'm going to give me a second here to get it repositioned. Yeah, I tried it with the lights on and you couldn't really tell that well. So we're going to try this with the lights off. And now here we go. I think that works quite nicely. Now, like I said, it's not pushed up, so the light will be a little bit more distinct once it's taped up into the inside of the saucer. But looking pretty good, I think. Now, what I need to do is to kind of remove this and clean it up, push the wires down, get everything kind of neatened up and make it more presentable. Then I need to get back onto the doing some of the body work on the secondary hull today and getting that ready for maybe another coat of primer, because it's been unseasonably warm outside last couple of days, and it'd be a good day to get another coat of primer on it. Let's do that. Okay, I've just taken the last few minutes to take the Dremel and channel out that line a little bit. Yes, it's overly done. I over-channeled it because I want to put in a fine coating of JB Weld in there as a light block, and I need enough for it to settle in there, and then I can sculpt that down a little bit. But I have to over dig before I can fill in. So the next step would be to take some Bondo and do another pass on this touch up of this lip here, and then we'll I gotta mask these guys off, and then we'll be hopefully ready for another primer coat. Okay, we're back, and we're back to another little let it go dry period. I have put mixed up some of the JB Weld, and I put it into the gully there, and it's smoothing out and laying down really nicely, and it's finding its own level there. Looks really good, and I'm gonna let that set up, and then test the lights and see how well it light blocks. But right now I'm kind of blending in the top of the deflector dish here, and I need to get some paint on that, and then block the back of this here so the blue light can shine out. But I still need to paint this part of it. So getting to it. Didn't get the coat of primer on it today that I wanted, but this is going to take a while to dry, so I want to go ahead and let that happen. Alrighty, I'm out here in the dining room because I need to clean this table off and actually do some Christmas wrapping this morning. But I wanted to show you how this turned out, this seam. That came out, sorry, got the glare, got the lens flare, JJ. Got the lens flare right at it, but man, the sun was not out 2 seconds ago. But you can see this beautifully clean, nice, smooth seam down here now. I only have to wait until I throw a light source at it to see whether or not it blocked the light effectively. But this stand gives me a way to do some painting and get some work done on this outside of standing it on the actual finished stand. But it gives you an idea how straight up and down this guy is, and what I need to do now as far as getting another coat of primer on it. Okay, we have what looks like a lot of light leaks, but is actually a tremendous success, because what you're not seeing is the leak coming out of that gully there. The top and bottom, that is that's the edge, sorry, top and bottom, that's the edge of the hull, and that has to be painted yet, and the windows will be scratched out of that. But that black strip in the center, that's what I wanted to accomplish yesterday, and that's what I have accomplished today as far as using the JB Weld as a light block in there. Not only is it nice and smooth and rounded and indented beautifully and can be painted, but it's more importantly, or most importantly, blocking the light as it should. So we know that that works, which is going to be a tremendous relief when it comes time to doing the even longer seam around the saucer. So yay. Yes, this all needs paint, and I was looking at what it looks like when windows are taken out. So all in all, very successful. And as you can see, we are starting serious work on the bottom of the saucer, and that includes or commences with the addition of the impulse engine lights here. There will be 2 more up there, of course, but got to get this guy involved first, and then I'll flip him over and glue in the other ones. Now I've got some hot glue holding this down, and I think what I'm going to do after that's done, just to make sure that's good and rock solid, is I'm going to put some of that 2-part epoxy putty over top of this joint and let it set in. Now everything that I do there is going to impact on the number of lights that I'm going to be able to see in the neck, but you know, some things you got to sacrifice. If it means one or more less windows lit to make sure that the impulse engines are nice and secure, well, that's a trade I'll make in my sleep. That's just an easy one. Okay, I'm letting the epoxy putty cure up a little bit before I move this around, and you see I've consciously dug grooves in it. I didn't want this to be real smooth, and you think that might be an odd choice. Well, it is and it isn't, because when I come to glue this thing in place, this whole joint, if I get any epoxy in there, it's going to have plenty of tooth to grab to when I do this, and not be smooth. I'm actually thinking of going in here and putting some slices in to increase the glue surface, so that when I put the 2 chunks together, they will, I mean, there is nice, from the 3D printing of the original pattern, you can see some of the grooves there. Well, it'd help if my camera was focused on it. You can see some of the grooves there, but I may cut in some additional grooves just to increase the surface area. And now we're coming to the next interesting bit, which is the smaller impulse engines that go on the saucer. And if you lay them in, you will recognize very quickly that they are a little bit big, which, you know, better too big than too small. But what that means I need to do is I need to cut out, and you can see the pencil line there, a little bit more of the saucer to allow for that to sit in there. And I have to do that obviously on both of them. And then I have to figure out how many, if any, well, I know there should be some, but how many of the red LEDs I'm going to use per per engine. I'm thinking just one. There's not a lot of room back there, but maybe I do one 3 mil. I guess these are 3 mil or 1.8 mil. I guess those are 3 mil. Do 1 3 mil on the leading edge, and then maybe a SM LED out here, because we're talking about the wider of the two spots. If I put a where's my pencil? If I put a 3 mil here and a smaller SM LED out towards that edge, something like that, 3 mil and a smaller SM LED, then when I get to this point, I'll have a nice evenly distributed light. See, what you're seeing is a whole lot of resin out here, but the pocket that you're trying to light is very shallow. So got to figure that kind of stuff out. Okay, I've got the saucer flipped over, and I am working on the frame now. What I'm doing here is simply hot gluing and then epoxying flat stock strip that I have cut out, a 1/2 inch wide strip, so that I have something that I can give a nice flat attachment to for the strip lights. Not that I'm concerned about it, but the adhesive on the back would stick much nicer to this flat white plastic. The white also helps reflect, and it also insulates against any problems I might have with this going on metal, even though there's fiberglass over it. It's just belt and suspenders, cheap insurance to make sure that the strip lights don't touch the metal frame. But all I'm doing is just putting a bit of hot glue on the back of it and pushing them in place. Like I said, to give myself a good foundation for the strip lighting. Okay, here we go. I got the lights on the inside and the outside. I'm going to go find the top of the saucer and plop it on there and see how she looks. Okay, what we're seeing here is slightly disconcerting, but I've already figured out it's not going to be a problem. I'm looking at this phaser strip and I'm thinking, geez, that's lit up. I can't have that. Well, I'm not going to, because once the phaser LEDs are taped in from the bottom, I will be running a silver tape over that to block that, so no light but those LEDs from the phaser strip, from the phaser effect, will be working. So we're okay on that. And if I scratch off a window here, we're going to see plenty of light through that. So that's looking about as good as can be expected. Nice and dark where it needs to be, lit where it needs to be, and now that I know how to fix this edge, that's not going to be a problem. So all in all, I think it's looking pretty good. And what you're seeing here obviously is light leak from not getting enough into the crevices, but when I remove a window, there you go. That's nice and bright. So yeah, we're working good, and I think that's a goodly amount of work for one day. I'm going to secure those in there, do a little bit more gluing and adhesing, and securing and all that kind of stuff, and we'll call it a day. Take one last look out here today at the secondary hull. I've been hitting it with repeated coats of gray primer just every so often, give it a little shot, try to even it up, and the next step on this will be to do the darker of the two blues colors, and then templates, and then the lighter of the two blue colors. So we're coming along with this. Oh, welcome back. It is Thursday, and it's time for the Under the Saucer Adventures with Jacques Cousteau. Putting in, I got the, remember yesterday, kind viewer, I got the impulse engines in, lights in, and today I am putting in the very delicate marker lights. There is a forward white light here, there is the red and green navs on either side. And I'm very carefully drilling very tiny holes, because we are very close to the edge here. As I spend most of my days very close to the edge, we are very close to the edge here. So making doubly sure to not slip up and gouge a hole that I don't want. Then it'll be a question of, once we get these 3 bulbs in, cutting little channels to bring them in that I can tape over. I'm going to just take the grinder and just make a little ditch there for the hole, for the wire, the magnet wire to go in. Something that I can cover over and protect, because that magnet wire is very delicate. I'm used to dealing with a little bit more robust wiring. So here we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut a little ditch back through here to run that wiring, and then I can just run a little bit of the silver tape over top of it to protect it. Always being mindful of what's underneath. See, I've got all those lifeboats here I don't have to worry about. But gonna do some of that channeling work this morning, and then the same thing, I'm going to try to get these impulse engines in today. And I think that would be, with everything else that's going on today, hopefully the new plotter arrives today. And if everything else that is going on, I think that would be, if I can get those in, and maybe the same thing on the top, if I can get the tiny running lights into the top of the saucer, that may be a good goal for today. Oh, so now I have just taken a little bit of 1-minute epoxy and put little dome, just a little drop on the outside of these holes where the markers are going, and that's acting as a lens, and it's also going to seep in and let the SM LED get really secure in there. And then I can come back and shape that, or paint over it, or scrape it down. It gives me basically a lens for the marker lights. Also protects them from paint while I'm getting into the rest of it. And I'm going to let that set up for a bit before I try to manhandle it a bit. So, and you can see I have taped them down from the inside, and since it's no bare wire, there's not really any risk of running afoul of it. So let's let this sit for a while. Okay, I'm getting ready to put in the lights in the top, and I just had to make a speed of light order to Evans Lighting, and I'm hoping that it will be returned with his usual quick fashion, because I just did a quick inventory, and what I thought I had for this strobe, which I want to be a cool white, I thought I had a strobe bulb set aside for that, an LED set aside, and I did not. I checked the color on it, and it was a red strobe instead, or a red LED. So no good, no bueno. I had to make a quick order, so be waiting for that one to come in. But I can go ahead and put these 3 in and just hang back and wait for that one. It shouldn't be it's not going to hold me up, because I'm still days away from painting it, and I can even put it in after a while. Because here's the thing, I was thinking last night, how am I going to put this thing together, in what order? And what I'm thinking is I'm going to paint up the entire secondary hull, get that all done except for the decals. I'm talking about getting it done. And then I'm going to I'm also going to paint the bottom side of the saucer and the top side of the saucer, really. Get those painted and done except for decals. And then I'm going to put the put the bottom of the saucer into the top part of the neck of the secondary hull, get that joint good and secure, really attach that thing, nail it down as best as I can, and touch up the painting around the neck that I'm going to need to do. And then I can set the boards in and wire up the boards, because they are going to sit inside of that metal frame. And then I'm going to attach the top. This is going to be the last piece that goes on, so the wires that are going to string down from that, I'm going to have to hold it up, sort of like this type of deal, and then attach the wires, and then lay the whole thing down, and then patch this long edge. So it's going to help me, because painting under the side of that neck is going to be a nightmare, so it's best to have that painted out and separate. But this is going to be the last piece that attaches down, so I can really hold off on that until I need to. But what I want to do now is to go ahead and get these 3 bulbs in, get the circuit in, and get that attached, get it masked off, and then cover this whole inside. Just protect it with a piece of something, piece of sheet plastic or whatever. Just protect it, keep it all safe while I am doing the painting out here. Then I can peel that off and then stick it down. I think that's going to be the best way, best method. So let me go ahead and get these 3, my 3 sons. Let me go ahead and get my 3 bulbs put in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce the newest member of the Aztek Dummy family, my new plotter. It has already been put hard to work, but just got it in this afternoon, got it hooked up, got it installed, and I am back up to full speed. Once this is done plotting, I will check it and make sure everything is good. I've already run a couple tests to make sure the knife is set right, but I'm going to obviously still want to do a quality check when it's done. But look at this. Where is it? I already did a little test run. Testing. Those, my friends, are the tiny windows, and look how cleanly they cut. The thin fonts are always a tough sell, but those are the secondary. Well, those are those size windows right there. They're the little bit bigger. They're the top of the saucer windows. I just put it there because that was the closest place I could see, but actually it needs to go, pick it up, it needs to go up here. But it cut that window very cleanly with no muss, no fuss, so very happy. Now I can get back to this work, and it's not even that loud now, so maybe I can be recording when the plotter is plotting it, not like the old one where I had to shut down and move to another room to avoid the noise. Yay! Well, good morning. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the weekend. Plotter is happily plotting, and I'm back up and running, back to business. And I'm taking a rare quiet moment here to kind of catch it up where I am at on the bottom of the saucer. Now, what I've got here, of course, these are the impulse engine wires that go down there. I have yet to attach these impulse engines, and I want to do that today. That's going to be the goal for today. I just need to figure out how to light them, because any light I put behind them is real sourcey. I mean, it's really an obvious bulb because it's like right frickin' there. If I could have channeled this area out and put a bulb back here to where it would have shone out through there, that might have been nice, but we got problems with the thickness of the fiberglass and all kinds of extraneous circumstances that keep that from happening. I mean, the ideal thing to do would be to cut out a cone here and sink the bulb in like that, and then let the bulb shine out through the cone. However, there's just not enough meat there to do it. So that's something that cannot be done. But what I've got here is I'm trying to figure out my ins and outs of my wiring here, because I've got this coming out here, which is going to be a wire that is going to go to the impulse engines when they're all done, to bring everything inside of this circle here, because that's where the circuit board is going to sit. So everything here needs to come in and reside inside of here, and then I will shoot two sets of wires out of that hole and go down and out the post, and that's how power will come up. I say this to you because I'm saying it to me at the same time to keep my thinking straight, and then I can go back and check the video for when I have forgotten how I was going to do something. I can go back and see what I said on the video. And then I have also been checking to see whether or not I need to take something out of here. I put the ribbon, a very similar piece of the ribbon cable that I've been using. I laid it over top of that. Here it is. I laid it over top of that and closed the top of the saucer up just to make sure I had clearance, because that ribbon cable that's going to come up through the neck has to come over top of this and then attach to the circuit board that's going to go in here. So In the realm of modest goals for today, I really want to get the impulse engine straightened out, figured out, get all of this wire neatened up and inside of here. And once that happens, I can close this up, or maybe even put the circuit board in place and kind of close it up so that I can do some painting on the underside. The secondary hull is out in the other room, as it has been most of this week, and I'm thinking what I want to do is to mix up a good version of this. Take these two colors here, put them all together, and give the secondary hull a base coat of the blue color, and then that can be drying all weekend so that next week we can start painting the secondary hull. Won't that be fun, kids? If I can get this part of the saucer to that point as well, I will be very happy, because then we can start really cranking along. So let's just see how the day is going. Okay, I took a little side trip. I was going to work on the impulse engines, but I decided to do this first. I've basically removed this arrangement from the board that it was on, trimmed it down a little bit, flipped it over, and I have tacked it in place with some hot glue, and I wanted to make sure it was lined up correctly. And now that it is, I can start securing everything down. But I've got the Ralph, I know if you're seeing this, it's probably giving you a heart attack, but I've got the board tacked to the top here with some hot glue, and that's where it's going to sit. And even though there's tape over everything, I can at least still judge that the lights are going to the right place, and they are in the channel that I've dug out there. I have blocked the surrounded the channel with tape so that I can minimize the light leakage. But now that this is working, I'm going to go ahead and put silver tape over top of all of this. That is to keep the white lights that are going to be inside here from bleeding up into this phaser strip when it is not on. You don't want to see light. You don't want to see that phaser strip. So I've got to start looking at my ceiling and my overhead, because this is the ceiling, and I've got a metal frame right in here. So I need to tape all of this down, not blocking too many of the windows as I do it. Chances are that any one window blocked by this wiring is going to be minimal, so we don't have to worry too much about that, but I am concerned. Welcome back. It is Friday afternoon, and I am taking advantage of the relative warmth. It's about mid-50s outside, to put a base coat on the secondary hull. And what this is half, this is both Rust-Oleum, half satin French blue, and then half gloss winter gray, which is a kind of a blue gray. What I did was I went with the blue, touch of gray, back over it with the blue. And what this is doing is giving me a excellent base coat that I can put Tamiya's over, and the Tamiya's won't have to work as hard to get to the final color. Sometimes you can waste a lot of Tamiya paint trying to get the color to change, and this, hopefully you won't have to do that now. What this is giving me, oddly enough, is a color of ship that is very, very close to the color that the plastic is cast in for the 1400 scale Enterprise. The commercial kit is very close to this color, so I know I'm on the right track. Now that I've got this part done, I'm going to run it back inside and bring out the bits of saucer that I've got ready to go. Okay, all of that fine work I've done today, all of that, I've simply put a piece of plastic over a piece of sheet styrene and taped it off to protect it, just to keep it from getting damaged. Because what I want to do today to end the day is to put a nice coat of the French blue over top of all of this, and let this be setting up over the weekend. As you can see, the French blue looks marvelous, looks très magnifique on the secondary hull. This is making a nice thick shell that I'm very happy to see. I'm really burying those windows, so I need to go in there and dig some out to see how badly those are getting buried, and try scratching one off to see how easily that will scratch. But we are at a very good place to be putting final color on it starting next week. So let's get to that, get this to that stage. And now there is a marvelous coat of light blue, French blue, plus a smattering of gray speckled in there. But it's a wonderful place for it to be drying for the long weekend. Well, the regular sized weekend is regular 2 days, nothing special about it. But I want to give that a good chance to really set it before we start doing the serious painting. Well, wasn't that a week? We're finishing up week 7 on the Galaxy class ship, getting down to the actual painting next week. That's going to be fun. I want to let that, I got it to a place where I could let it dry and cure all weekend. Next 2 days, I even got to look at it. And then we'll get it ready for next week. We'll start putting some Aztecs on it, and that'll be fun. I like to paint. Painting is what I like the most. So getting the lighting done is important. But I like to paint. So until next week when we will be doing that very thing, be good to each other. Have a Merry Christmas. Don't get too stressed out over the holidays. Take time to enjoy yourself. And we'll see you here next time.